Hi, I'm Lindsay, and I'm talking with medtech industry leaders on how they change lives for a better world.
The inventions and technologies are fascinating, and so are the people who work with them.
There was a period of time where I realized fundamentally my job was to go hang out with really smart people that are saving lives and then do work that would help them save more lives.
I got into the business to save lives, and it is incredibly motivating to work with people who are in that same business, saving or improving lives.
What better industry than where I get to wake up every day and just save people's lives?
These are extraordinary people doing extraordinary work, and this is The Leading Difference. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Leading Difference podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay, and today I am so excited to introduce you to my guest, Dr. Shoreh Ershadi. With over 40 years of expertise in clinical biochemistry and pharmacology, Dr. Ershadi stands at the forefront of scientific innovation in the field of nutraceuticals and supplements. Board certified by the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine and holding dual doctorate degrees, Dr. Ershadi brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to the world. Dr. Ershadi's distinguished credentials, including National Registry in Clinical Chemistry and Toxicology and American Society of Clinical Pathology certifications, underscore her dedication to precision and quality in laboratory practices. Her visionary leadership and unwavering passion for advancing human health has made her a trusted authority in the field. All right. Well, Shoreh, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited to speak with you.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to talk to you, especially that you're going to talk about medical technology. And that is something that I have been doing or working at for, I would say, over 30 years easy. 1988, I got my license in California. So it's what, 32 years?
Yeah, excellent.
Somewhere
Oh my
around.
goodness. Well, this leads perfectly into my first question, and that is, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and how you got into medtech?
Okay, that is interesting because I was born in Iran and I studied pharmacology. And before I was graduated, the Department of Health in Iran was hiring pharmacists, pharmacologists. So we all went and took the exam and we passed the exam. We were still at the final stages of doing the thesis and going through final stages of graduation. And then they called me and a few other people for interview. Apparently, I had a high mark in the test, which I did not know. So when we went for the interview, and I went to an American school and then later to a British school in Iran. So I was speaking English. At the interview, there was a gentleman who was back in Iran from United States, and he was a PhD in clinical biochemistry. And he asked me to read something in English, and I read it. And he thought that I had it by heart or something. So he flipped the book and found a more difficult page and said, okay, read this. And I read that, and he said, okay, I'm hiring you for the reference lab. I had absolutely no clue what he was talking about, what was reference lab. I had no intention to even work for Department of Health because I was not even graduated at that time. And then they said, okay, start on such and such date. And when I went there the first day, he said, he spoke in English and he said, you're overqualified. And I thought, oh my God, I mean, it was funny. Without even planning to get into laboratory, I got into the reference lab of Department of Health. And what he was planning to do was to bring College of American Pathologists the proficiency testing to all the laboratories in Iran. And he wanted someone who would speak English and who could communicate. So first day of my job, I wrote a letter to College of American Pathologists and I said, hi, hello, I'm Shoreh Ershadi. I want to buy 1,000 proficiency kits. Of course, they responded. So just like that, I got into clinical laboratory and I became the director of the quality control for Department of Health. And that was before the revolution. So that was my
Wow.
exciting start into laboratory.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. Thank you for sharing that. And so,
Not voluntarily, but
fair enough.
serendipitously, yes.
There you go. So then at some point you came to the US, and was that transition really difficult? Was it frustrating? Were you excited, nervous?
Well, there was a part in between before coming to US. There was another test by WHO, World Health Organization. So I took that test and I passed that test and I got a scholarship to go to medical school in England to do a master's degree. And when I went there, I told them I already have a doctorate in pharmacology. I don't want master's. I want to do PhD. And after a few weeks, they said, okay, fine, go to PhD. You don't need to do math. So I was in England for about 4 years. I did my PhD in clinical biochemistry and I went back to Iran. That was exactly during the revolution. So while I was studying in England, the country in Iran was on fire. It was things going crazy everywhere. But I went back and I got married. I had my son in Iran, and I was working in a clinical laboratory in one of the best hospitals in Iran. And it got very difficult for women to work. They were saying, now you have to wear a scarf. No, you can't see male patients. You can only talk to female. It was not right. So in 1984, I came to United States. I came to California, and with some friends in Iran who had clinical laboratory, and they were here before me and had started a lab in Orange County, California. I started a branch of the lab in Westwood in Los Angeles. So that was my first job or position. And that was my entrepreneurial side. With now I wouldn't dare to start a lab, but then I did.
You didn't know the difference then.
Well, yes, I didn't know. I mean, it was a lot easier, I would
Yeah.
say. At that point, the lab was not even accepting Medicare or Medi-Cal. It was private insurance. I was doing the billing. I was getting the information. I was drawing the patients. I was separating the samples and sending them to the reference lab that was actually running the test. But I was doing stat CBCs and I was in a medical building. And so all the doctors were so nice to send the samples down, and it worked. So
Amazing. Oh my word.
amazing. Yes, now it sounds really amazing. Surreal in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so with that lab and embracing this entrepreneurial journey, and I'm so thankful it worked out so well for you, but were there any moments where you just thought, okay, you have such an amazing background, you're so highly educated, you're brilliant, and then you're starting this entrepreneurial journey, which is kind of a different skill set in a way. How was that transition of becoming kind of your own boss and being in charge of everything?
That was pure ignorance. And now I can say, then I thought I knew what I was doing. But it was a fast learning. First, that I was in a different country that I had never been in the United States. Second, that I had a 3-year-old son that I brought with me, and my then husband never came, so I got a divorce and I became a single mom. So, and nobody else was from my family was here. So it was very difficult because I had to take him to daycare and then come work and then go pick him up. And then there was a war, the Iraq war had started in Iran, and my parents were in Iran, and I was going through a divorce. So it was turmoil. And I had to work and learn. In a way, it was good because it didn't give me time to think about anything else. It was just forward, no looking sideways, no looking backwards. It was just moving forward. But then again, something else happened that made it even more interesting. One of the days that I was at the lab, some guy came and said, CDL, Central Diagnostic Lab, is looking for a technical director, and they've asked me to come and talk to you. I had absolutely no clue if anyone knew me or knew of me, or it was I mean, a lot of things happened, which, I mean, I'm happy now, but then it changed my life uh, tremendously. And I don't think I've ever talked to anyone about this in this detail. So, Lindsay, I would say you're the first person I'm telling the story of my life. But, anyways, I went for an interview and I got hired right away.
Mm.
And I had the lab, so I hired someone to do the work that I was doing in the lab. And then I started working at CDL, Central Diagnostic Labs, which was the largest privately owned lab in the United States at that time. There were 1,200 employees. So that was a very interesting experience on its own because I was introduced to a world that I did not even know what was going on. So, and that was during AIDS testing. Biorad had just come up with Western blot testing, and we did the clinical trial, which was very easy in those days. We had AIDS patients, and we had a lot of AIDS samples accumulated or, say, frozen, and we used them to validate the Western blot by Biorad. And I went on national TV 1988, and I said CDL is the first lab in the world that is doing a confirmation for HIV/AIDS testing. So
Wow.
then that was major.
Yes.
So, but then my family came. My father passed away here. It was again a lot of complications going on. And one of the other people that I knew asked me to go and partner with them in a lab. Again, my entrepreneurial part took over, and I went for the partnership, and I started from scratch. I started Path Labs practically from scratch. There were two pathologists working with Los Alamitos Hospital, and I went there and I started a lab from just buying test tubes, buying from absolutely nothing. I was there for 6 years, I think, 6 or 8 years with Path Labs. That was not so successful. After that, I went to Specialty Labs, which is now Quest. Specialty wanted to start a toxicology lab. So the Path Lab was sold, but there was no money made with the partnership and all that. So that was not a very successful 6, 8 years of my life. Specialty was good. I went to specialty and I started Department of Toxicology. I don't know if you remember or you were familiar with specialty. Dr. Peters was there and he was the founder, James Peters. He did only immunology testing. They would receive samples and send out everything else to other labs and only do the immunological test or some specialty tests. When I started the toxicology department, we started getting samples from all over the world. We were
Mm.
running heavy metals and all that. We had an ICP-MS, and I started running ICP. And the main test that I developed there was measuring iron in the liver biopsy of patients with hemochromatosis. So we would get one spot when tip of the needle of the liver, and then do a measurement and measure the amount of toxicity with iron in hemochromatosis, which was great. I wrote a paper and we were working with Mayo Clinic and they developed the test. So that was very exciting. Then I started the automated lab because all the chemistry and all the hematology was going out, was sent out. So that brought a lot of money into the lab, but that was not my it was Dr. Peter's lab. It was wonderful. It was nice, but he was the entrepreneur there. So in the year 2000, I started Anti-Aging Institute of California. After passing the specialist chemist license in California, I got National Registry in Certified Chemistry, Certified Toxicology, and then I took the board exam with the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. And that was again entrepreneurial, and I started the company. That would be 25 years ago. I've done a lot of consultation. I've been director of lab. During COVID, I went back to City Health and I was director of City Health, running 4,000 COVID patients a night for airports, for schools, for traveling, for a lot of stuff. And then I worked with Siemens Healthineers on regulations for IPDR. So all the kits that Siemens had, over 700 reagent kits that were sold to the laboratories, they need to get the CE mark to be able to be sold in Europe under the new IPDR regulations. And a lot of it had to go through FDA as well, because FDA had to approve if there were any changes made to the kit. So I've done a lot of regulation works. I've done a lot of hands-on COVID tests. Covered it all. Actually, something else that was very interesting, and this for medtech, I would think this would be interesting to know that it's not just one position, and there's so much you can do if you want to expand your horizon. For about a year, I helped set up extremely high complex laboratory for testing mother's milk, for making milk bank from mother's milk for NICU, for children who were born early and the formulas did not work with them. Some of them were so tiny, less than a pound. And so Mother Milk Bank is called Prolacta Bioscience, the company. And I worked there to establish the clinical lab and to get a license for CLIA and stuff like that. So
Oh,
a lot of good work going into my up and down career, I would say.
I love it. Well, first of all, I'm so honored that you were willing to share so much with me. I really
Oh, thank
appreciate it.
you.
And I really appreciate you being willing to talk about some of the amazing moments you've had and the really high, yeah, we did this, but also
Mm.
some of the moments where it's a little bit tougher. And even you being honest and transparent about the one company didn't do as well as you would have hoped, but you kept going. And you are a living testament to resilience and adaptation.
There is no other choice. I would hope that people would have many choices. I
Yeah.
mean, you always make choices in life.
Yeah.
Even now, this is a choice to talk to you.
Right.
And I appreciate the opportunity, because if I would choose or if I wouldn't know about you, that would be a totally different um, episode in my life. So I'm open to take chances. You can say that with my experience living in 3 different continents and moving and just leaving Iran and coming to US with a 3-year-old, not being here ever before, and then just jumping in. And but there was no other choice except for moving forward, or we can say except for success, because failure was not an option. What would I do? There was nowhere to go back. Sometimes you may have an option to make a U-turn and say, okay, I don't like this. I want to do something else. I want to stay home. There was no up and no going back. So it was only forward.
Yes, absolutely. So coming here and like you said, having to move forward, and I appreciated what you said. You couldn't look to the side, you couldn't look back, you had to keep moving forward. How did you go about building a community that could support you, that you could be friends with and colleagues with and feel supported coming in from not having that?
And that was not very difficult. There were many difficult times during that, I mean, I don't mind talking about it. Being a woman, being a young woman, being from a different background, there was a lot of resistance. And I see that today as well. I mean, I can't say, oh, here I'm in LA and Los Angeles is so easy. It's not. Um, I am hoping that women would not maybe experience all the difficulties that I went through, but we're talking about 40 years ago. I
Mhm.
came to the States actually July 22nd would be exactly 40 years. I left Iran July 1st, 1984. So this is the 40th anniversary. Being a woman, I thought when I went to England, one of the first things the professor was my direct supervisor when I worked with him. And I know you can see my face. This is 40 years later. I have no claims, but the professor told me, you're a beautiful woman. Why do you want to study? Why are you here for PhD? And I thought that was the greatest insult in my life. So I fought with that professor for 4 years.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
It well, that wasn't easy, but it was so difficult to prove that I am not just a woman or a pretty girl or a young girl or a young woman or that was a major fight. I would say that was as difficult as fighting the revolution in Iran because you wouldn't expect a British professor to say that to you. And I was the only girl, PhD student. All the others were guys. And this was medical school. And to me, that was very surprising because when I went to University of Tehran, we had probably more girls than guys in the class.
Wow.
Girls were very prone to education in Iran, and they still are. There's still, I think, 65% girls in universities, even here.
Mm.
But to hear that was very difficult. That experience repeated itself in United States over and over till today that I can say I don't feel old, I'm anti-aging. But now that I'm an old woman, I still feel that I have to prove myself that I am equal. And
Mhm.
sometimes I would say I'm better, but to be
Yeah.
honest and modest, you want to be treated equal. And
Yeah.
that is very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And as much as I would wish things were improving rapidly, I'm not so sure that they are. But what have you found has been helpful in terms of helping people understand who might come with a bias, but who helping those people understand, no, I have this education, I am very capable. What are some strategies that you have found that have worked really well for you?
Not many. I have to be honest with you. I mean, if there are with few people, few women, few even men who are would be following the conversation, I
Mm,
want them to know that this is not easy.
mhm.
And maybe a part of my success is that I'm a fighter
Yeah.
and I didn't surrender,
Yes.
but I didn't smile my way up. I fought with everyone that went in that direction. And I don't want to get into details, but many of the stronger men would think that if they flirt with you, if they take you out, if they buy dinner for you, then you're going to do what they say. And my story is just I had my guards up
Yeah.
and I fought. I wouldn't recommend people to fight. Maybe they can find a better solution. I did not find maybe the reason of working separate and starting my own company, maybe one of the major reasons was that I would not have to say yes to power that I did not want to say yes. I worked very hard. I worked hard, long hours, med techs. You have to stay there to get the results out.
Mm.
One Christmas, I stayed from December 24th for, I would say, 72 hours in the lab, maybe 3 hours shower and sleep and go back because we had a lot of toxicology tests that were waiting and results had to go out. And the probe in the ICP-MS was broken. There was no one to replace it during Christmas. We had to borrow from somewhere, FedEx shipping it. But those things happen. You know that.
Yeah.
And you have to work hard. It wasn't an easy journey to say, oh, I work 4 hours a day. And they said, thank you. You're so good. Go home. It wasn't like,
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. And so, one thing that was really interesting to me, I was looking at your LinkedIn profile and I see that art is a big part of your life in addition to the science. And I saw you listed painting and sculpting. And I'm wondering how, well, a couple of things. How did you first get involved in art? And secondly, do you feel that is helpful in terms of having a sort of therapeutic thing to do that kind of maybe helps with some of those harder moments where it's a little frustrating?
uh, very helpful. But
Okay.
as a kid, I started painting at a very young age. And I
Yeah.
was always coloring and painting and making things and all that. And my father, a very educated father, he had two master's degree from University of Texas and came back to Iran. And that's why we spoke English and we went to English school. So my father was educated and open-minded, I can say. But he always said that you should study art and don't go to medicine, you'll get old. He passed away in 1988. And I always, when I started anti-aging, I always said, okay, if you're looking, you will see that I'm anti-aging. I didn't age. I went to medical school. I did all the studies. But my logic, first, that I love to do this. I mean, it wasn't just, uh, forcing myself. I
Yeah.
love science. And to this day, I do a lot of research. I play with science. You can see the labels are all fancy. I do the painting. I do all of that. But my logic, more than being scientific, was that this was a career and art would not be a self supporting career, even
Mm.
at younger age. But I always said that if I was a doctor, I could paint, but if I was an artist, I could not do the scientific part or the medical part that I was interested in. But after the divorce, I was in a relationship for 14 years. And I was working hard, raising a son, being a single mother, and all that. When that relationship ended after 14 years, the art just popped out. I started painting, sculpting. It was not under control. You can see that things happen to me, things come out in a certain period. Maybe I push them down, force
Mhm.
them to stay within me, and then they just pop out in
Yeah.
different directions. So art came out itself. But there was a period in between that there was no art. Maybe there was too much stress. Maybe there was a lot of, and right now there's no art. Right now it's more entrepreneurial, starting, scientific, all that. But the art pops out every now and then.
That's great. So, speaking of what you're doing now, I was wondering if you could share a little bit about your company and maybe what you're excited about for its future as you continue along this path.
Okay. This is now where all the passion is. So everything that I have forced inside for all my life is now just coming out into apoptosis. Apoptosis is a Greek word and it means falling of the leaves. In science, apoptosis, if you Google it, you will see it means programmed cell death. So in our bodies, in creation or creator or whichever you want to put it, and I'm sure being a medtech and all the audience, they know there are thousands of reactions inside the body are happening. For me, just to sit here and breathe and talk, there are thousands and thousands of enzymes and catalysts and metals and whatever is going on. Programmed cell death or apoptosis is a main part of survival. So it's the future of anti-aging because we all, first of all, that life expectancy is much longer now. Longevity is longer, and younger people do not want to get old. So at some point, I would say my grandmother's generation, and my mother is now 95 years old, and she's, thank God, healthy and walking and all that. But even she does not want to get old. So the image of being old and sick is combined together. But we can age without being sick, without getting Alzheimer's, without losing our memory, without getting all these different kinds of diseases. And one major problem is cancer that was much higher with older people. And now the statistic is showing that cancer is happening in younger and younger generations. So what apoptosis does is that it's a program in the body. I did not make it. I wish I did, but it's happening all the time. And apoptosis is getting rid of cancer cells, getting rid of damaged cells, getting rid of neurons that cannot connect and synapses with other neurons to take the message over. So if we encourage apoptosis, then all the damaged cells are removed, just like falling leaves. They're removed from the body and they're replaced with new, energized, healthy new cells. Every 10 years, our entire body is regenerated. So why do we get old? We should always stay at a 10-year age. So at 20 years old, we have recycled cells that even though we're growing, growth and youth is defined as between 20 to 25. From 25 to 30, it's sort of stable. There's a plateau. After 30, we start the aging process. So now, as 30 to 60 is still considered not so deep flip going down, it's sort of a plateau up to 60. And then after 60, 70, 80, 90, people are beginning to age and it shows. I mean, with different diseases, with wrinkles, with memory loss, with all that. So what I'm doing, I'm using nature's product, plant-based products, and this has been proven in science that these plants support apoptosis. So as we get older, just like all the other reactions, apoptosis does not happen at its ultimate way that it should happen. But if we encourage it, for example, we have here, this one is brain beet. This is all beetroots and it's an organic product. It's all plant-based, but it releases nitric oxide. And it works the same way that Viagra works, but it opens all the arteries, it opens the circulation to the brain, to the heart. So why not use it? Why not promote apoptosis the way nature has programmed it in our body? Just help it to work better. So that is all my passion right now.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I love that. Thank you for sharing a little bit about it. I'm excited for our listeners to go and learn more about it and see how they can maybe also take part in the anti-aging movement.
Yes, they can partner with us, and I would be thrilled. Actually, this is something that maybe I have learned during the long life experience is that the more partners you have, the more friends you have, the more you share your knowledge, the better it is. Because at some point it was like people wanted to keep everything to themselves and they didn't want to share but right now it's totally different. If they go to apoptosis.us, they can go to the science section, they can read the papers, and if they would like to partner, I'll be thrilled to work with as many people as possible and take
Excellent.
the message out. Yeah,
Yes,
this is a healthy message. This is something that we should all be talking about.
indeed we should. Yes, thank you. Well, pivoting the conversation just for fun, imagine that you were to be offered $1 million to teach a masterclass on anything you want. It can be in your industry, but it doesn't have to be. What would you choose to teach?
Well, that $1 million would be great.
Indeed.
Yes, yeah, would we all want that?
Yeah.
But yes, I think that right now, as I said, I would use the $1 million to talk about apoptosis all over because I see even young children. Every time I see St. Jude's children, and thank you for your donation to Save the Children. I admire that. And I'm hoping that all the children in the world would have a good, healthy future. The world is crazy. You can look at it right now and see that I can say my experience has been crazy. It doesn't get any better. It's always up and down. Things are happening all over, everywhere in the world. And I would like to talk about health, talk about anti aging, talk about apoptosis, and educate more and more of the young people to learn and to avoid all the toxins that we are creating and we have created with
Mhm.
what we're doing with industry and go back to a plant-based life, go back to nature, enjoy nature, go back to art if possible, all the
Yeah.
good things that we can do with our lives.
Yes, absolutely. And then how do you wish to be remembered after you leave this world?
Oh, wow, that's a very difficult fighter, survivor. Yep, strong women. I would support women all the way. Now in Iran, they're saying woman life freedom. I'm sure you've heard about that. And I cannot tolerate to see women covered all over with a window to see outside. To me, that is very disturbing. So I would like to see equal opportunity for women, and I would like to maybe be remembered as the survivor.
Yes, absolutely. And then final question. What is one thing that makes you smile every time you see or think about it?
Oh, my granddaughter and my grandson. Yes, I have a 5-year-old granddaughter. Her name is Julia, and she is my sunshine.
Oh,
She is my life. The grandson is 3 months old. He's still too young, but he's getting there.
oh,
Sorry.
really? Oh, I'm so glad. It's That's beautiful. That's wonderful.
Yes, that is continuation of the fight. That is
Yeah,
when you see that what you've done is worth the fight, worth the hard work.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Well, this has been amazing. I so appreciate you telling your story and sharing some of it that maybe you haven't done before. And I feel very honored.
Well,
And thank you. Thank
thank
you for
you,
trusting me.
Rachel. Well, thank you for bringing all of this out. This has been sitting there, mm, suffocating, maybe. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Absolutely. And we are so honored. You mentioned this, but to be making a donation on your behalf as a thank you for your time today to Save the Children, which works to end the cycle of poverty by ensuring communities have the resources to provide children with a healthy, educational, and safe environment. So thank you for choosing that organization to support. And we just wish you the most continued success as you work to change lives for a better world.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me, and thank you for making me tell the story. Thank you,
Uh,
Ruben.
of course. And thank you also so much to our listeners for tuning in. And if you're feeling as inspired as I am right now, I would love if you would share this episode with a colleague or two, and we'll catch you next time.
The Leading Difference is brought to you by Valentium. Valentium is a full-service CDMO with 100% in-house capability to design, develop, and manufacture medical devices from Class 2 wearables to Class 3 active implantable medical devices. Valentium specializes in active implantables, leads, programmers, and accessories across a wide range of indications such as neuromodulation, deep brain stimulation, cardiac management, and diabetes management. Valentium's core competencies include electrical, firmware, and mechanical design, mobile apps, embedded cybersecurity, human factors and usability, automated test systems, systems engineering, and contract manufacturing. Valentium works with clients worldwide, from startups seeking funding to established Fortune 100 companies. Visit Valentium.com to explore your next step in medical device development.